If you've never played a chess tournament before, it can feel really intimidating. What are the rules? What if you offer a draw wrong? What if your phone goes off? Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lula, and today I'm going to tell you everything you need to know before playing your first over-the-board chess tournament. Today we are talking about FIDE rated classical tournaments, and so step number one has to be getting a FIDE ID. FIDE stands for the International Chess Federation, and if you don't have an ID, you cannot play FIDE rated events. You may have played some events rated on a national scale, which is separate from FIDE, or maybe you haven't played any events at all. Regardless, if you want to play an international tournament, you will need to sign up for an international rating system. Usually, you'll get your FIDE ID via your chess federation, so if your chess club at home is affiliated with your chess federation, ask a contact at your chess club, and if not, there is usually a contact email for your chess federation for somebody who deals with that. If for any reason you can't do that and your ex-girlfriend is the head of your chess federation and she won't give you a FIDE ID, you can also get one via the FIDE Online Arena that's run by World Chess. If you upgrade to a pro membership on the FIDE Online Arena, you'll be given a FIDE ID. FIDE owns World Chess, so it is a legitimate ID and you should be able to use it for tournaments. Step number two is signing up for the event. You can almost always sign up and pay the entry fee online, which forgoes the need to attend in-person registration. You will need to provide them with your name, country, FIDE ID, and sometimes other information. There are 5 specific rules that beginners should know about playing over-the-board chess. Number 1 is that you must record your moves in algebraic notation. Number 2 is that you must press the clock after every single move. If you forget, your opponent is not obliged to tell you and you could lose on time. Number 3 is that you must touch the clock with the same hand that you use to move the piece, okay? So no crisscross. If you're low on the clock, you can't move the piece and then hit the clock. You need to use the same hand. Number 4 is the touch move rule. If you touch a piece, you have to move that piece if that's a legal move. Same as if you touch your opponent's piece, if you can capture that piece, you must then capture that piece if it's a legal move. Number 5 is for piece adjustments. So if you want to touch a piece to adjust it, maybe it's halfway in between 2 squares. You can only do this on your own turn, first of all, and you must say, I adjust, or je double, which is in French, but everybody says it for some reason. I don't know, I think they just want to be fancy. But if you want to adjust a piece, you have to say you're adjusting that piece. Next, I want to talk about how you offer a draw. Everybody does this wrong, so if you want to offer a draw in any position, you need to make your move first. However, you must offer the draw before you touch the clock, okay? Make your move, offer the draw, touch the clock. Your opponent is not obliged to reply to you. They're not even obliged to acknowledge verbally your draw offer. However, usually on the score sheet, you will write equals next to the move number where somebody offered a draw. Now, if your opponent accepts that draw, they can't then go back and unaccept, okay? They can't say yes and shake your hand and then say, actually, I want to keep playing. If your opponent does not acknowledge you offering a draw, they can just play their move and ignore your question. If they play their move and hit their clock, that means that your draw offer was declined. Next, I want to talk about what happens during the game. These games can be very long, especially if you have a time control, which means you get extra time later on in the game. That means, of course, you can get up and walk around and go to the bathroom. However, you must do this on your opponent's turn. And if you see that your opponent plays a move when you're up from the board, you are supposed to return to the board as soon as you notice that it's your turn again. Technically, you are not allowed to leave the playing area without the permission of the arbiter, but the bathrooms are usually included in that description of the playing area. You do not need permission to go to the bathroom, but let's say if you wanted to leave the building and go somewhere else, you would need a very good reason. You would need permission for that. As these games are long, you should manage your time well. You should think during your opponent's time. So even though you can get up from the board and walk around, you should be using that very valuable time on your opponent's clock to calculate, to plan, to do things. Obviously, you cannot spend, 4 hours straight concentrating on something. It's just not possible, and you will take breaks and you will get distracted and focus on other things. But as much as you can, try to think on your opponent's clock. And also, due to the duration of the games, you are definitely allowed to bring multiple different beverages and snacks. Sometimes people consider it impolite to eat at the board, especially if what you have is noisy or messy. So you can always stand up, go away from the board to eat, or, basically just use your common sense and don't bother your opponent with your snacks and drinks. If you're playing a tournament with a time control, usually this happens around move 40. So as soon as you have reached move 40 and you get your extra 30 minutes, because usually it is 30 minutes, you should stand up and go for a walk, because there's a good chance you were in time trouble before and now you're no longer in time trouble. So you need to shift your brain back away from panic mode. Standing up, having a snack, having a drink, and walking around are the best ways that you can do that, in my opinion. After the game is over, you will both sign the score sheets that you have been notating your moves on, and you will clearly note who won the game, usually by circling the name of the winner. There are 2 layers to a score sheet, the top layer and the bottom layer. You will tear them and you will be able to keep half of the score sheet for your own records. You will then need to give the completed other halves of the score sheets to the arbiter, either directly in their hand, or sometimes there is a box to put them in. Once the game is over and you have shaken hands with your opponent and dealt with the score sheets, you can ask your opponent if they want to analyze the game with you. They are not obliged to do that. I think that post-game analysis can be very beneficial for helping you to feel better about a loss, and it can also be helpful to the lower rated opponent to understand the game and the position better. But if somebody doesn't want to analyze, then don't take it personally, because it can also be very hard to analyze after a hard loss. And also some people don't feel comfortable analyzing, or they're in a rush, or they just don't want to. So that's also very normal. I would say it's about 50-50. Now you know the vague rundown of how a FIDE rated game goes. Let me explain a little bit more about the pairings. Pairings are who you will play against. Let's say you're playing a 9-round tournament. The pairings will usually work using a Swiss system, unless you're playing an event called a round robin, where everybody plays against everybody, like the Tata steel. The Swiss system takes the list of participants and cuts it down the middle, so you have a top half and a bottom half. The top player of the top half plays the top player of the bottom half, and it goes down like that. After that, winners play winners and losers play losers. Generally, you will play the person with the same number of points as you. Sometimes you can be floated up or floated down, which means you end up playing somebody with a slightly different number of points to you, and that just means that there was like an odd number. But you will, by midway through the tournament, generally be playing people who are a good competitive level to you. Depending on how organized your tournament is, the pairings will either be posted online or in person in the playing hall. If it is a game for the next day, you can assume that you will see the pairings online the night before. If it is an afternoon round and you already played that morning, there is a good chance you won't get your pairing until 10 or 15 minutes before the game. So sometimes there is time for preparation and sometimes there isn't. Let's talk a little bit more about tournament etiquette. Some tournaments will have a dress code, but generally you are okay to wear anything that you are comfortable in. I would say always make sure that you are a little bit too warm, bring an extra jumper, because you are going to be sitting down for a long time, and usually when you're sitting still, you tend to get colder. So make sure you have extra layers, make sure you're comfortable. Do not wear the tightest jeans that you own, because you will regret it, and make sure that you have handed in your phone to the arbiter if it is a tournament that allows you to do so, or make sure your phone is switched off in your bag. Another option is to not bring it to the playing hall at all, but I know that that can be complicated. So just make sure before round 1 that you are clear on what the rule on phones is, because this is the way that you are most likely to get disqualified from the tournament. Now, I will say that this rule also extends now to smartwatches. If you have an Apple Watch or like a fitness tracker, this is also a smart device. All smart devices have to be off. Other things that you cannot have as well as phones include things like chess books, old score sheets, anything that is basically like notes that if you were to take them into an exam would have been material for cheating. Playing your first over-the-board tournament can be an extremely nerve-wracking and anxiety-inducing experience, so I would recommend not going alone if you can help it, going with other friends. But what I find is really helpful is to have a social connection at one of these events, because if you go to a chess tournament and you have no social connection, it can be a very isolating experience, especially if you're not feeling confident about the chess or the chess goes badly. So I find it's always very helpful for there to be something else going on, so that at least if my chess isn't going well, I have nice people around me. Bear in mind that these long games are much more mentally demanding than any kind of online chess, and that the losses will hit you a lot harder. There is nothing like spending 4 hours on something that you thought you were going to win, only to give it away at the last minute. And I promise that it is totally normal to feel entirely awful about this, to cry, to be angry. All of these emotions are totally valid, and as chess players, we all feel that way. So don't feel weaker because you have an emotional attachment to that game. This is something also that you will improve with experience. You will become less attached to every individual game with the more games that you play. You may also be like me, where you remain incredibly attached to every single game, but I hope for your sake that you aren't. My final tip for you is that 2D online chess and 3D over-the-board chess are two entirely different things. And if you have never really played on a board before, you're going to have a little bit of a nasty shock when your board vision doesn't translate from the 2D board to the 3D board. So try to get some over-the-board IRL chess experience before you go to play your first tournament. You may find yourself missing basic tactics that you would definitely see online just because you're not used to playing with a real chessboard. So that is honestly one of my biggest recommendations before your first tournament. Another thing that you probably won't be prepared for is how noisy a chess playing hall actually is. People getting up and walking around, people coughing, people like moving in their chair and making noises. There are so many things going on. There's people whispering, arbiters, people with noisy shoes. It is not like sitting in your bedroom in silence and playing a game on your phone. It's very different, and it's actually surprising how a room full of focused people are making so much noise. So this is definitely something that you have to get used to and adapt to. Some tournaments provide earplugs if they know that their playing hall is specifically noisy. And if not, you can try and take your own earplugs. I have never seen an arbiter object to earplugs, but you can always check those with them first if you're unsure. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If there are any questions I didn't answer, then leave them in the comments and I will reply to you there. Some of you may have noticed that this is actually a remake of a video I made a very long time ago, and that is because I found that video genuinely unwatchable. It's from like 2 or 3 years ago and I was not very good at presenting, and so I hope that this can be a better and more watchable video than that one was. Good luck in your next tournament. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I will see you next time. Bye guys.